Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different, a unique mission, you could say. We aren't looking at, a geopolitical conflict or a new scientific paper.
No, not this time.
Instead, we are diving deep into the storytelling, the just incredibly dense and powerful storytelling in a piece of art.
And it really is art. We're looking at the submitted lyrics for a song called The Girl Who Stayed Awake by Cheri.
Right. And over just a handful of stanzas, these lyrics managed to give us a complete, really complex biography of a fiercely authentic life.
It's a masterclass in narrative compression, really. I mean, every single line is like a heavy stone being laid on a path.
Yeah.
And it charts this life that's defined by this intense individuality, a kind of radical self-reliance, and the very, very high cost of choosing truth over convenience.
So for you, the listener, what we want to do here is sort of give you a shortcut, a way to understand the psychological architecture of a person who just flat out refused to compromise. Our goal really is to dissect these metaphors, which are just stunningly rich, and to trace this character's emotional roadmap.
It's a huge journey, from profound isolation and rejection all the way to a very complex, hard-won kind of belonging.
And this constant vigilance, right?
Yeah.
We want to understand the central question these lyrics seem to be asking.
Which is?
What is the cost and what is the creation that comes from choosing to stay awake when it seems like everyone else has just opted for an easy sleep?
It's really the ultimate story of turning trauma into a foundation. It's about rejecting what the lyrics so brilliantly call the easy fake.
Oh, that phrase is just devastating.
Isn't it? And it's not just a one-time rejection. It's about sustaining that rejection for decades. And that refusal to conform, it becomes more than just a reaction. It becomes like the very infrastructure of her being.
That fierce individuality, it's the engine of the whole piece.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the very beginning. The story starts by rooting this character, this singular wild soul, in a very specific time and place.
Yeah, it's almost journalistic. That precision is what grounds the entire mythology that follows.
So the lyrics say, born as the sun met a foothills sky on a June 6th dawn in 70s light.
Right there. We're in the 1970s, a decade of huge social transition, and we get a specific date. This isn't some vague fairy tale. This is a specific life beginning on a specific day.
And the location gives us the whole flavor of her world, right? Calgary breath.
And when you think of Calgary, you think of those vast Canadian prairies, the jagged Rockies right there. It has a sense of rugged individualism baked into it.
The Calgary breath makes me think of like sharp, thin air, high altitude.
Exactly. It's a clear, sometimes isolating environment, an air that demands a certain fortitude. And right away, we get the internal clash.
The fire inside.
Yes. She had a fire inside in a world that was too quiet for a soul like the tide.
So you've got fire, which is this pure, innate passion. And the tide, which is this ceaseless, powerful movement. She is intrinsically dynamic from birth.
A force of nature, fire, and water. But she's born into a world that's emotionally suppressed. Too quiet.
And that sets the whole conflict in motion, doesn't it? She's just out of sync with her surroundings from day one.
And the world immediately tries to, contain her, categorize her, dismiss her power?
The labeling is so brutal but so concise. They called her too much. Too wild, too wise.
That phrase, too much. Wow. It's so telling. It's the universal dismissal, isn't it? For intense personalities, for powerful women, for anyone whose internal volume is just a little too loud for the accepted public standard.
It's the moment the world tries to make her smaller.
Yes.
It's her being cast out of the conventional mold. But what's so fascinating is how she processes the world that's rejecting her, while they see her as too wild.
She's seeing them through cathedral eyes.
Right. And what does that even mean, cathedral eyes?
That's one of the most layered images in these early stanzas. A cathedral implies a few things, right? Grandeur, reverence, depth, a kind of verticality striving for something higher.
So on one hand, it suggests she sees the world with this, awe-inspiring, almost spiritual intensity. He sees the potential for profound meaning everywhere.
Exactly. But if she sees the potential for a cathedral and the world around her is too quiet and actively dismissing her,
then that perspective must lead to some pretty profound disillusionment.
Precisely. If your lens is that of the sacred, of high expectation, then the mundane, compromising world, the world of the easy fake, it must seem profane. It must seem intensely disappointing.
So her vision isn't just critical, it's It's disappointed.
Disappointed reverence, that's a great way to put it. She isn't just judging the world, she's judging it for failing to live up to its own sacred potential. And that's a huge burden to carry.
It's the price you pay for having those deep expectations. And because the world can't receive her, that immense energy has to go somewhere.
It's forced inward. We see her self-censoring or maybe protecting her truth. She kept her songs in a secret place with a voice too bright for a silent space.
So the conflict becomes internal. Her natural expression, her songs, they can't be snuffed out entirely, but they have to be hidden. They have to be protected.
Because they're too brilliant, too loud, too vital for an environment that is demanding silence and mediocrity. It suggests her art, her true self, was born in the shadows, nurtured in secret.
Because the space around her was restrictive, not supportive.
And that suppressed power is so crucial because that's what has to eventually erupt into the active, conscious rebellion that defines her. She can't stay quiet forever.
The secret song has to come out eventually.
It has to. The soul demands expression, even if that expression leads to complete isolation. And that takes us right into the chorus, the central philosophical decision of her life.
Okay, so this next section is where her character is really defined by action. The chorus is the heartbeat of the song.
It's her mission statement. Oh, the girl who stayed awake while the world fell into its easy fake.
The easy fake. That concept is just. It's devastating because it implies consent. It's not just that the world is broken, it's that people are actively choosing the comfortable illusion.
And that easy fake can be anything, right? It could be career conformity, prioritizing social media perfection over showing genuine struggle, adopting beliefs you haven't really examined.
Settling for surface-level relationships.
Exactly. And for someone with cathedral eyes, this mass compliance, this sleepwalking into illusion, it's just unacceptable. So staying awake requires this relentless vigilance. It means bearing the full, unvarnished weight of reality.
And her response to this sleeping world is just so radical, pure will. She burned her maps, she broke the chains.
It's not passive resistance at all.
No, she's getting rid of all external guidance systems.
It's a total repudiation of any predetermined life path. Cultural expectations, family burdens, conventions. Burn the maps means she's charting her own territory based only on her internal compass.
And breaking the chains.
Yeah.
That implies freedom from obligation, even to her own past. She's declaring herself sovereign.
And the result of that pain, of that struggle, is the psychological alchemy we were talking about earlier. Turned her scars into hurricanes.
Let's slow down on that one.
Yeah.
That phrase carries so much weight.
It really does. Because scars are marks of past damage. They're fixed, set. But a hurricane is a force of nature. It's intensely powerful, regenerative, but also destructive, potentially self-destructive.
So she's not just healing from her trauma.
She's weaponizing it. She's channeling the energy of that past hurt into a raw, formidable power that drives her forward.
But I have to wonder about the sustainability of that kind of power. If your deepest emotional wounds are your source of energy, isn't there a danger in that? Can a life fueled by a hurricane really be sustainable?
That's the tension the lyric creates, isn't it? The hurricane is necessary for survival in that quiet, judging world, but it carries a huge risk.
It suggests an intensity that might scare away the very people she needs.
And it suggests that her power source is linked to her pain, which means she might have to constantly revisit those scars to keep the storm going. It's a magnificent but, well, a volatile form of resilience.
And the source of that original pain is laid bare almost immediately. The critical moment of abandonment that made the hurricane necessary in the first place?
Yes, we shift abruptly to the core trauma. Her mother left with a suitcase vow, a California sky, but she never looked down.
The mother is chasing that glamorous, maybe stereotypical American dream, the California sky, but the emotional devastation is all in that final phrase.
She never looked down. It's just a brutal, cold, nonverbal rejection. It's a total focus forward on her own escape without acknowledging the cost of the child she left behind.
That emotional vacuum demands she create her own survival mechanisms on the spot.
She has to become her own parent, her own hero, the architect of her own rescue. And that brings us to the 3 tools she uses.
Right, so she just drew her own escape with a typewriter, fire, and a dream-shaped cape. This is how she turns that void into creation.
Let's break those down, because they really define her creative self-mythology.
Okay, the typewriter first.
The typewriter is the tool of narrative control. If her life story was initially defined by abandonment, she now takes the pen or the keys and writes her own. She structures her world through her own story.
She writes her own escape route, the birth of the artist who masters her own narrative.
Then the fire. That has to connect back to the fire inside from the first stanza.
Yes, but now it's harnessed. It's that same raw passion, but now it has a purpose. It's for purification, destruction of old roles, and it's the fuel that keeps the typewriter going, keeps the hurricane running.
And then the dream-shaped cape, this is where the heroism comes in.
The ultimate symbol of the rescuer. She doesn't wait to be saved, she saves herself.
And the dream-shaped part is key. It's made of pure imagination. It's her armor, her power garment. It's her declaring that if no one else is coming, she'll be her own champion.
So you have intellectual creation, raw passion, and heroic self-mythology, the complete survival kit.
And with that new identity, the narrative moves to her relationships. Her intensity means a high turnover rate. Loved men she outgrew like worn-out coats.
Which suggests this relentless emotional and intellectual evolution. She's just moving too fast.
Right. Her partners become comfortable for a time, a worn-out coat, but they're ultimately confining. So she sheds them because they just can't keep pace with her constant awakening.
But through all of that, all the breakage and the fire, her core integrity is still there. But the gold in her never went to rust.
And that leads to maybe the most iconic summary of her entire being. She was glass, she was ash, she was diamond dust.
It's just a crushing and defining line. It encapsulates her entire life in 3 materials.
Let's take them one by one. Glass. Extreme vulnerability, transparency. She can be shattered, and her interior life is visible.
Ash. The remnant of destruction. What's left over after the fire of trauma. It's all the past pain and loss she carries.
And then the synthesis of the two, the most powerful part. Diamond dust.
Diamonds are formed under immense pressure. They're the hardest natural substance.
But the dust implies that this strength, refined by trauma, is also dispersed, glittering, maybe impossible to truly grasp. She is simultaneously broken, destroyed, and indestructible.
And that complex identity explains why conventional relationships couldn't work.
Exactly. And that resilience, forged in fire, brings us back around to the second chorus, which is all about the painful integrity she has to maintain.
So the chorus repeats, and it really solidifies this theme of painful vigilance. She kissed the stars others tried to fake.
Meaning she's always seeking genuine, celestial truth authenticity, even if it's isolating. She will not settle for the counterfeit.
And the central skill she gets from this constant cycle of outgrowing and abandonment is recovery, not avoidance.
Right.
Taught her broken heart how to return. That line is so powerful. It's not about avoiding breakage. Breakage is inevitable. It's about mastering the skill of recovery.
It completely reframes resilience. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about knowing how to put yourself back together. And that's a necessary skill because her love, as the next lines define it, is massive and profoundly independent of whoever is receiving it.
This capacity for self-recovery allows her to define love on her own terms through these 2 incredible nature metaphors. First, the moon.
She loved like the moon, even when no one stayed.
The qualities of the moon are so specific here. Constant, reliable, cyclical.
And it has this profound, unseen influence, right? It commands the tides, yet it's distant, reflective, independent. It's a love that gives light and has a huge emotional impact without ever needing proximity or recognition.
It sounds like a love that's just too vast for one person to contain, which would explain why no one stayed.
Exactly. And then she amplifies that with the second metaphor. She loved like the wind, even when no one stayed.
And the wind is invisible, powerful, transformative.
And fundamentally untamable. You can't hold the wind in your hand. So her love moves through life, it affects change, but it leaves no physical trace of attachment that can be possessed.
So we have this pattern of massive, profound, independent love, moon, and wind that is just completely non-reciprocal. She gives this constant transformative devotion.
And her partners just can't meet that scale or that freedom. The emotional weight of all this comes to a head in the bridge, which just confirms the bleak reality of her experience.
The quiet despair of that line is devastating.
And nobody ever stayed.
Ugh.
It's the culmination of decades of relationships. It's the confirmation of chronic isolation. It's the realization that even though she mastered recovery, she has failed to build a lasting emotional harbor.
It confirms that her fire, her hurricane, her truth, while essential for her survival, has basically made her unholdable for most people.
And that failure is the catalyst. It creates this huge emotional vacuum that sets the stage for the narrative's turning point.
She's reached her limit on lonely self-reliance.
And that void is immediately filled by the arrival of the pivotal character in the next section, the anomaly who finally breaks the cycle.
And here he comes, the unexpected force that actually matches her intensity. What's so crucial is when he arrives.
Yes, he doesn't wait for the storm to pass. The introduction is just perfect poetry. He came like a laugh in the hurricane, with a crooked grin and a soul untamed.
He arrives during her storm, not after.
He meets her power not with fear, but with joy and a matching wildness. He's not intimidated by the hurricane she built from her scars. He finds it attractive, familiar, maybe even funny.
The soul untamed part means he mirrors her deepest identity. He doesn't need her to be smaller or quieter.
And that acceptance allows for what you could call radical visibility, the core difference in their interaction versus everyone who came before.
She finally lets someone see the vulnerability underneath all that armor.
The lyrics spell it out so clearly. She let him see what the world would miss, the shattered mirror behind her kiss.
This is the moment she finally shows someone the glass and the ash that form her core, not just the glittering diamond dust facade.
Exactly. The shattered mirror suggests that the reflection she shows the world is fragmented by all that past trauma.
And the crucial part is, he accepts the fragments. He didn't run for the parts she hid.
This is the revolutionary act. Past partners probably wanted the diamond dust, the brilliance, the passion, but they ran from the ash and the fragility of the glass.
Right.
This partner understands that the trauma and the vulnerability are inseparable from her power. He offers a safe harbor not by taming the hurricane, but by embracing its chaos.
And he validates her entire existence. He reframes the very things society dismissed about her. If they called her too much, too wild, he calls it power.
Precisely. He called her magic and meant it, he did. This is such a fundamental act of validation. It transforms those societal labels of excess and disruption into intrinsic worth. He sees the fire inside as a sacred gift, not a liability.
And that validation lets her fully inhabit her wildness without apology for the first time.
The bond they form is one of mutual exchange and deep endurance. She offers him the totality of her being, the good and the bad. She gave him her storms, her sky, her flame.
That suggests giving him access to her most chaotic and passionate inner life.
And what he gives her in return is the one thing she never had. And he stayed through the fire without any blame.
Without any blame, that's the critical part.
It is. He doesn't hold her past or her intensity against her. He endures the emotional fire of her passion and her trauma, and he establishes a genuine, blame-free safety zone.
So this bond is built on acceptance and endurance, making it fundamentally different from the relationships she outgrew, like worn-out coats.
And this connection provides the anchor she needed. It proves that her profound truth can be seen and accepted. But the narrative doesn't stop there. It quickly moves beyond just this romantic pairing.
It broadens her entire capacity for life and connection.
Exactly. The story immediately expands the definition of family to include those who mirror her untamed nature. It moves away from human society and into what the lyrics call a circus of souls.
And this is a vital expansion. Her chosen family is defined as the ones with feathers, with paws, with scales.
This affinity for non-human companions, it suggests a rejection of the confines of human expectation and the easy fake. These beings are just authentically themselves. They live without judgment.
And her connection to them is primal. She spoke in whistles and chirps and howls. Her communication is nonverbal, pure, instinctual.
It bypasses the need for human language, which is so often filled with judgment and expectation. It implies a kinship with the untamed. These creatures, outside the structured world, they mirror her own essential wildness.
And the depth of her commitment to them is described as a sacred vow. These aren't just pets.
No, they're spiritual commitments. She held their lives like a whispered vow. This shows her profound capacity for care, maybe compensating for the abandonment she suffered.
They're fully integrated into her emotional architecture, each heartbeat etched into her now. They've become foundational parts of her emotional landscape,
providing an enduring, stable structure of love that humans so often failed to deliver.
And all of this experience, the abandonment, the heartbreak, the self-rescue, these deep selective connections, it all synthesizes into her greatest achievement.
The transformation of cost into creation. This is where the empires are built.
In the echoes of what was lost, she built empires from the cost.
A cost is the collection of all her traumas. The mother's departure, the failed loves, the initial societal rejection. She doesn't just recover from it. She uses the raw material of her suffering as the foundation for structure and permanence.
Think about the psychological implications of that. She didn't let her trauma consume her. She mined it for strength.
For building materials. And empires are vast, enduring, complex structures. She built a life, a body of work, a legacy that is grand in scale because of the immense pressure and the depth of the void she had to fill.
And the final legacy lines confirm the permanence of her triumph. Stitched her name into the dark, carved her story into art.
Her art isn't just incidental, it's the permanent, undeniable record of her defiance and her survival. She has ensured that her life, which began with secret songs, is now prominently etched into the world's consciousness.
This is the moment of apotheosis, really. She's defined herself, secured connection, achieved legacy.
But the narrative isn't over. The final stanza has to reconcile this triumph with the enduring tension of having chosen truth over the easy fake.
So we come back to the central theme, and it synthesizes her entire journey. She's reached this state of complex fulfillment, but the vigilance is still necessary.
The refusal to yield is absolute. Oh, the girl who stayed awake, who never bowed, refused to break. Despite decades of storms and fires, that core wildness is intact.
But it's been tempered, hasn't it? Tempered by the wisdom she gained.
Yes, she now walks the line of wild and wise. It's no longer just the raw, too wild force of nature from the beginning. It's instinct balanced by hard-won knowledge. She's integrated her passion with her intellect.
And that inner energy is still formidable, but it's contained, with lightning still behind her eyes.
Right. The fire is now concentrated. It's visible as this potent energy, but it's under her control. Ready to strike, but serving her vision. It's the mature state of the hurricane, refined into targeted power.
And this maturity leads to the final, most complex metaphor for her love. It succeeds the independent moon and the fleeting wind. She now loves like the seas.
The sea is the ultimate metaphor for this kind of encompassing mature love. It embodies massive scale, immeasurable depth, constant motion.
And tidal power. It's capable of both terrifying storms and profound calm.
It suggests a universal, encompassing love that is a force of nature itself. It exists beyond the needs of any single recipient. It's an integrated love. It has the distance of the moon, the movement of the wind, but it adds the depth forged by her experience.
But this grand, magnificent declaration of her capacity for love is immediately followed by this profound layer of loneliness that takes us right back to the first conflict of the song.
The shift is jarring, isn't it? She loves like the seas, even when no one sees. No one sees. Why does nobody ever see?
It's such a melancholy conclusion, because if she found the one person who saw her, her partner, and she built a family of souls with her circus, who is the nobody that fails to see her now?
This has to connect back to the easy fake.
Right.
Her intimate circle sees her. They see the magic, the diamond dust, the hurricane. But the world at large, the collective that still prefers to sleepwalk through life, it fails to recognize or acknowledge the monumental truth of her existence.
So the cost of being awake is this perpetual existential loneliness.
I think so. You've achieved your truth, you've built your empire, but you exist in a world that fundamentally rejects the standard you live by. She's seen, yes, by those who matter, but she remains invisible to the sleeping majority.
It's almost a tragic coda to what is otherwise a triumphant story.
Yeah.
The price of integrity is perpetual separation from the mainstream. You can build your safe harbor, but you can't get rid of the vast ocean of conformity all around it.
She's still the lonely ruler of the empire she built. It perfectly ties up the entire narrative arc. Her initial problem was being too much, too wild, too wise. And while she found ways to celebrate those traits, the world itself never changed its preference for the quiet, the tamed, and the easy fake.
So her truth ensures her masterpiece, but it also ensures her status as an outsider.
Forever.
What an incredible density of emotional and psychological narrative packed into this structure.
That's really something.
We follow a life defined first by this deep, cold rejection from her mother, from early lovers, then transformed through this powerful, creative self-rescue with the typewriter, fire, and the dream-shaped cape.
And that journey is ultimately anchored by selective, deep connection with her partner and her chosen, untamed family.
The core takeaway for anyone listening seems to be that enduring strength isn't about avoiding the break, it's about mastering the return.
It lies in converting pain, the cost, into creation, the empire. That fierce individuality that defines her is the engine of both her success and her persistent, profound separation from the norm.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought for you to carry with you from this deep dive. The narrative gives us a blueprint for transforming the cost of your scars into an empire, but it forces us to ask a hard philosophical question. If you fully embrace your own wild and wise self, if you really commit to staying awake, can you ever truly silence that lament, that feeling of being an outsider in a world that prefers the easy fake.
And maybe consider this. What parts of yourself are you currently hiding or minimizing because the world once called them too much? And what might happen? What specific laugh in the hurricane might arrive in your life if you stopped hiding those parts and allowed someone to call your intensity magic instead of excess?
That radical visibility.
It's perhaps the first step toward building your own untamed empire.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the extraordinary narrative and complex psychology within The Girl Who Stayed Awake. We'll see you next time.
She was born as a sun at a foothills sky on a June 6th dawn in 70s light. Calgary bred with a fire inside in a world too quiet for her soul like the tide. They called her too much, too wild, too wise, but she saw the world through cathedral eyes, and she kept her songs in a secret place with a voice too bright for a silent space. Even when no one stayed, even when no one stayed. Her mother left with a suitcase, vow California sky, but she never looked down. She just drew her own escape with a typewriter fire and a dream-shaped cage. She sang to the birds and she danced with ghosts, love men she outgrew like worn-out coats. But the gold in her never went to rust. She was glass, she was ash, she was diamond dust. She gave him a storm to sky her flame, and he stayed through the fire without any blame. And the ones with feathers, with paws, with scales, each love a thread in a living veil. She spoke in whistles and chirps and howls, her circus of souls, her sacred vow. She held their lives like a whispered vow, each heartbeat etched into her. Now they dance through her, both wild and true. Her heart can undo what her soul once knew. And in the echoes of what was lost, she built empires from the coast, stitched her name into the dark, carved her story